Good afternoon, members of the Pemberton Valley Utilities and Committee meeting. My name is Angela Belsham, and I am the corporate officer for the SLRD. As your corporate officer, I'm calling this December 5th meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. We would like to recognize that this meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Lillooet Nation. The first order of business is election of chair and vice chair, as required in November of each year by the Local Government Act and the SLRD's procedure bylaw. I would like to thank Directors Richmond and Ramsden for holding the positions of chair and vice chair over the past year. Before I call for nominations, I would like to outline the process we will follow. Starting with the position of chair, I will call for nominations from members. Only one nominator is required. We don't require anyone to second. The nominee must then consent to the nomination. If there is only one candidate nominated, the candidate will be declared by acclamation. If there is more than one candidate nominated, an election by secret ballot will be conducted. Ballots will be counted, the number of votes will then be shared, and the candidate with the most votes will be declared chair. With that, I would like to call for nominations of chair for the PVUS committee for the remainder of this year and year 2025. Calling a first time for nominations of the chair.
I'll nominate Mayor Richmond for the chair's position.
Director Richmond, do you consent to the nomination? Calling a second time for nominations of the chair. Calling a third and final time for nominations of chair. Seeing no further nominations, I will declare the nominations closed. And as no other nominations have been received, Director Richmond is acclaimed as chair of the PVUS committee for 2025. And I'll return the meeting over to you for elections of vice chair.
Thank you very much. So thank you, everyone. I will open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
And I will nominate Councillor Ramsden.
Director Ramsden, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
I'll call for any other nominations. The second time, third time, and so we will declare Director Ramsden as the vice chair. Thanks, everybody. Good afternoon. It's a pretty friendly looking crowd. It's fun to see. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda, please. Director Ramsden, second by Director Mack. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have none. We will go right into our first delegation, which is 5.1. We have Ms. Kirkpatrick from the Burke Recreational and Cultural Society Chair. How you doing, Patty?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having us today. I really appreciate the chance to give my 2.5 minute little blurb. We know that you received the paperwork, which we submitted a while ago to each of you for review. So the proposal that we're trying to make today, that if accepted, will remove the responsibility of managing Gates Lake Park and from the Village of Pemberton, and it'll move it directly over to our community as run by our supported society. I think that's quite a refreshing move. If you think about the fact that local government is always called upon and asked for more and more, and we're asking for you to give the responsibility back to us, and we will do the work of looking after the park. A bit of background about us. The Burke and Cultural Society was incorporated in 1982. So it's continued to operate for 42 years with dedicated volunteers. And through that volunteer involvement, we've fostered this really grassroots kind of small community feel in Birken. I actually managed to pull the original Constitution papers from 1982, typed out on a typewriter with Courier font size 10. But I want to read something that I think is really important. The purpose of the society, number 2C, to encourage all citizens to assume their share of responsibility and participate in the support of recreation and culture. And having said that, I think that this is the perfect time that we look at why we're here. Birken is a roadside community. It's got a dearth of local facilities. But over the years, the Berkin Recreation and Cultural Society has initiated all kinds of events that's drawn together the locals. We've done holiday celebrations. We do the roadside cleanup. We put on community markets. We've built trails. We put on music in the park. We've run a mobile library with the help of the Pemberton Library, bringing books in. We had sewing clubs after school for kids. We participated in the Canada Day Parade by putting floats in from the community. All of this we have done with nowhere to gather other than in local backyards or on somebody's farm. So for the community from Pool Creek to Divine, with a count of about 140 families, maybe 130 dependent kids, and we just made that unofficial consensus by counting on our fingers and toes. Because we have Gates Lake Park now, we actually have, that's become a real game changer for us. There's a place for us to go and gather, to meet with the recent outside shelter that was built. We can have all kinds of little things that we've done. We drive by that park every day. The neighbors see the need for better parking. There's too many people parking on the road. It's a danger on the hot summer days. We know that there's trees that need limbing. We notice the garbage cans are full and the outhouses could use some attention. We are delighted because we see that somebody has gone and lit up the Christmas trees. And now we want to directly engage with the SLRD. When necessary, we will make the call to our representatives to tell them we need to do something about the parking. We want to do volunteer cleanup days if needed, under our own decisions. We want to look after Gates Lake Park, and we want to have our community pride that reflects the care and the appearance of that property. Thank you.
Any questions?
I think it's a great idea. Because you folks are really engaged. And I just think it would be, if nothing else, a really good test to see how this would work, because maybe it can work somewhere else as well, right? No, and I know in the last 3 or 4 years, just the park needs to be tuned up, like tidied up and just looked after a little bit better, because it's a beautiful location. We now have the second washroom installed, which is, a good thing. So yeah, it's a really a good community asset. And the fact of the matter is, there's people from all over the corridor use that park in the summertime. And when you have your events there, like that, the event last year where I'm standing there talking to Susie Gims, and we're looking at the washroom, and there's a lineup about 30 people deep to try to get to the washroom. And I'm going, this isn't working very well. We need another facility. So we've got that now, because there was so many people there, families. It was a wonderful occasion. So I think that this would be a really good way to just test the waters, see how this would work, and I'm fully supportive of it. So there you go.
Thank you, Director Matt.
So I think, go ahead.
I'd just like to say, Patty, that all of the community members I've known, a lot of people from your area for a long time. And I think it's wonderful that you guys want to take this on. I'm all for it. I think it sort of reduces sort of the layer of work and that has to be done from the village. Obviously, that's gonna, maybe free their time up to do other things that are, a big long list. And yeah, I just wish you all the luck. And I'm not sure exactly how this process works, but as far as I'm concerned, I think it's wonderful.
Thanks, Director Kennett.
So I think there's we've talked about it a little bit at this table before, and I think there's general support, as you can hear, for the idea of you guys. You guys have done great work, as you've barely highlighted over the years. And I think there's general support. I think we have to work within the contracts that we currently have. and see those through. But I think that gives us time to work through the process and figure out what that looks like. Because there is obviously would be, if we go down this road, a management setup, so we understand what decisions can be made and how and all those sorts of things. So I think there's general support. I think staff are looking at it, and we have a runway with what's left. I think there's a year and change left on our contract. So
Just a tiny bit of change, December 31st, 2025.
That's what I thought, thank you.
so that gives us a year to start looking at how we could put things together and see if we can come to an agreement on what that looks like.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. I just wanted to be with full transparency that in these situations, we'd have to look also at our procurement policies and our contractual requirement to go to tender on contracts like that. I think in these situations, the competition is minimal and glaring outstanding in the field organizations that can participate in that, such as yours. It's just something that I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Part of the process.
We do have to follow our tender process.
Thank you. We do understand those things, and I would also like to put out a big thank you to one of your employees at the Recreation Department who has been incredibly helpful in guiding us through this process. Christine Burns has helped us realize what a lot of the responsibility is going to be and where we all fall short. And so we're looking at how we will fill those holes, and we will also hope that we will get that continued support going forward, whether we need to be mentored in certain things. It's 100% something we'd be ready to look at.
Awesome. Well, that's
Thank
great.
you.
Look forward to working.
Thank you.
So all of our next delegations are with regards to our grants and aid fund, our PDIF fund, and so Ms. Reed's gonna give us a little bit of a rundown on what that looks like.
Good afternoon, Veronica Reed, Project and Program Coordinator with the SLRD. I was just going to give a brief introduction to our delegations today. We have 6 organizations here presenting as a requirement of the Pemberton and District Initiative Fund policy. Any new applications over $5,000 and any long-term recipients over $12,000 are required to give a presentation. So we've organized this as 10-minute intervals through the delegations, and then the discussion in respect to each funding request will take place at 8.6 in the agenda later today. So we'll have a chance to discuss those applications after we hear from the groups. Thank you.
So much. So first up, we have a representative from the Worcester Gymnastics Club. Who's joining us? Mr. Davidson? Yes. Better. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, I'm Mark Davidson, the Executive Director of Worcester Gymnastics.
And I'm Katu Tyler. I'm a Program Manager with Whistler Gymnastics.
Next slide, please. So who we are, Whistler Gymnastics was founded in 1986 as a full-time organization to provide excellence in gymnastics activities in a safe and positive environment that fosters lifelong sport participation. We will remain small enough to hold true value and big enough to be a model of sports excellence. Whistler Gymnastics will endeavor to positively impact the development of children and becoming great individuals through the exposure to the fun, fitness, and fundamentals of sport. Whistler Gymnastics will provide a positive sport environment based on the values of quality, respect, well-being, and integrity. In 2024, Whistler Gymnastics was proud to officially launch Whistler Gymnastics Pemberton with the relocation to a permanent full-time facility in the industrial park. This expansion has allowed Whistler Gymnastics Pemberton to offer gymnastics programming 6 days a week to better serve the recreational needs of families and youth of Pemberton and the surrounding communities. Next slide, please.
So in 2002, the Village of Pemberton, the Pemberton Community Center asked us to take over the programming of the gymnastics at the community center. Gymnastics can be a complicated sport. And from there, we worked with them and we began taking over all the programming from that time on. Whistler Gymnastics always had coaches within the community 2002, we worked with the Pemberton Community Center. We were at the old high school. And then in 2005 is when we took over the programs itself. Sorry, I apologize. From there, we expanded the programs. We went through COVID with all the PVUS sport regulations that we had within that. We were able to increase the membership from basically 100 or 130 per year all the way now. When we left the community center in the spring, we had 185 to 200, but now we're at 253 members. And we've been able to expand our programming. Next slide, please. So we went from the setup takedown. Those are bottom pictures of our closet where we were storing all our equipment. We would set up basically for a long time. It was 2 days a week at 8 o'clock in the morning and tear down at 8 o'clock at night. So it was a lot of work. We did expand to 2.5 days of programming. So we were able to keep some of our equipment up for some of the time. So that helped out a lot. We were able to increase our membership at that point as well. But we basically have outgrown the community center and we look for a permanent facility. We are now able to upgrade our equipment, have a spring floor, permanent setup for bars. It's not quite the full floor, but it's all we can afford within the space that we have. We were able to expand some programmings because we are now able to offer programming potentially 7 days a week. Right now we're at 5 days a week or 6 days a week. And we were able to offer different programs that we're just getting running. So a sensory program for just different children with different needs. Our goal is to provide affordable programming for youth within the community.
Next slide, please. Yeah, so as Katu mentioned, these are just some photos of us moving into our new location over in the industrial park. We've moved it in several different stages. We moved all the equipment from the community center in the end of the summer. And then just last week, we had a full team of volunteers help us with the new sprung floor and the new mats and bars and stuff. Next slide, please. And that's just showing the programming that we have offered during the course of the week. In addition to holiday camps, pro D-Day camps, we're hoping to expand to birthday parties, private lessons, those types of offerings. Next slide, please. Just in summary, we're asking for $12,000 per year for 5 years to support the expansion of Whistler Gymnastics in Pemberton. This grant, along with all the grants that we receive, help us keep our programming fees affordable and low. By establishing a full-time permanent gymnastics facility in Pemberton, Whistler Gymnastics will be able to provide full-time, more affordable, high-quality gymnastics programs for Pemberton and the surrounding communities, including Mount Currie and Darcy. We are also hopeful that with the permanent facility in Pemberton, we'll be able to offer economic developmental opportunities through job creation, as well as continuing professional development for our current and future employees. Thank you very much.
Thanks both. Any questions from the committee?
No, I think it's really interesting and really nice to see that you've included Mount Currie and Darcy. So that would include Naquaqua too?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and we host some of those groups down previously in our facility in Pemberton. We had Blackwater School would come down and the school from Darcy would come down. So now we're hoping that with the full-time facility here in Pemberton, we'll be able to better serve those communities and those members.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else? I didn't realize your membership was to that level. You guys should be pretty proud of how much you've built on that program. So great job. Thanks for coming in and presenting today, and staff will be in touch on it. So
Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, next up on 5.3, we have representatives from Whistler Animals Galore. Who's joining us for that? Afternoon.
My name is Peter Muller. I'm the executive director there at WAG, and this is Lindsay. Probably met Lindsay before. She's the director of animal welfare and behavior. Thank you for having us here today and for giving us the opportunity to present as part of the application process for the 2025 Pemberton and District Initiative Fund. The purpose of this grant application is to secure funding for the essential services provided by Whistler Animals Galore, as outlined in the current VOP service agreement, and to request operational funding for additional services that are currently offered but not formally included in the agreement. We have next slide, please. Oh, next slide. Thank you. For those who may not know WAG, we have been serving the community for 42 years. Based in Whistler, we support the entire Sea to Sky region. Our mission is to provide a safe and nurturing space for animals in need. WAG is seeking PDIF support to sustain the current programs and services we provide. Sorry, the next slide. And we provide the community. Rising operational costs, higher veterinary expenses, increased wages, and declining adoption rates have created significant financial challenges. In 2023, WAG experienced a deficit of $83,000. On the ongoing housing crisis and rising costs have led to fewer adoptions and a surge in pet surrenders across Canada. Like many shelters, WAG is operating at full capacity with a long waiting list of animals needing care. PDIF funding would help us continue meeting these challenges and ensure the well-being of the animals and families that we serve. Next slide, please.
We provide a range of programs and services that benefit both the animals and humans in our communities. One of them is our Lost and Found and Impound service, which is all about reuniting animals with their families, taking in RCMP holds, such as dogs left in hot cars, or if a person is detained, and emergency boarding situations. We take calls daily from across the Sea to Sky corridor from Tupela to Squamish. In 2023, to give you an idea, we cared for 36 animals in the Lost and Found program. We successfully reunited 23 with their families. The animals who were never reclaimed ended up being in WAG's care, and we adopted them out. We also provide temporary boarding for people facing emergencies such as the loss of home due to disaster, fires, floods, death of a family member, etc. One of the more complicated cases that we had this summer was Taylor. We had multiple calls from Birken residents about a dog who was abandoned on the Birkenhead FSR. He survived on his own for over 2 weeks, sleeping in the woods. It took several attempts before we could safely bring him in. He was terrified, untrusting, and emaciated. Once in our care, he received vet care, vaccines, and the TLC he desperately needed. Over the following months, we worked hard to help him rebuild trust and learn basic life skills like walking on a leash, living inside, getting into cars. Today, Taylor is thriving, and we could be prouder of his transformation into the brave, happy boy that he is. Next slide, please. Rescuing and rehoming. This is really the heart and soul of what we do at WAG. This program really encompasses just so much about how animals come to WAG and then their journey towards adoption. Last year, we took in 169 animals. Over 100 of those came from the SLRD. 99 animals were surrendered to our care. We find that the main reasons for surrendering is often high vet cost, behavior issues, and lack of pet-friendly housing. We adopted out 112 animals into Living Forever homes. And last year, we also took in 36 critical care cases. To give you an example of what a critical care case can be, we actually have one case in our care right now, Togo. He came to WAG with a broken hip, a broken jaw, broken teeth, and pellet gun injuries. So you can imagine the amount of time, resources, love, and worry that go into each of these cases. We're happy to report that he's doing really well on his healing journey, and he actually has an adoption appointment tomorrow. We also took in multiple litters and pregnant moms and orphan litters, and we're just so grateful for our foster homes who help us with our orphan litters. Next slide, please.
So WAG is a vital resource for animal welfare and behavior education. We support the community by providing educational content on our website, responding to calls for animal welfare assistance, hosting school visits, events, and fundraisers to connect and engage with the community. We have a significant presence on social media, which we actively use to engage, educate, and raise awareness about animal welfare issues. At present, we have about 9,300 Instagram followers and 10,000 plus Facebook followers. Our foster families and volunteers are the heart of WAG. They're like family. Their dedication makes everything we do possible. We have 48 active volunteers. Their contributions directly benefit the animals in our care and foster personal growth and mental well-being. We embrace diversity and strive to create a supportive and inclusive environment for everyone. Next slide, please.
Our animal wellness clinics is one of our outreach programs, and we provide this in partnership with the Lillooet Nation community. The amazing Dr. White volunteers her services, and PAWS helps host as well. We work closely with PAWS in many ways, and we're so grateful for the work that they do. Residents from all over come to these clinics, from Birkin, Darcy, Naquaqua, Skatine to Pella. We really hope to expand these clinics and assist with farther and more remote communities more often. These clinics play a vital role in our shared goal of reducing the stray animal population and reducing animal suffering. This summer, it was actually a challenging year for us with staff shortages, but we were still able to host 3 clinics. We saw 75 dogs and their families. Each dog was vaccinated, given parasite control, and a voucher for a low-cost spay and neuter. We also had 25 animals spayed and neutered through our fans program that we offer all year round. And we gave out over 200 bags of dog and cat food through our animal food bank. Next slide, please. We just wanted to say thank you so much for considering our application and for the important role that you play in supporting our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Any questions, comments?
No, just thank you very much for doing this. It's well needed and it's well deserved. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks for the presentation today, and thanks for the work you guys do on this. Appreciate it. So, we have Permanent Animal Wellness Society. Someone like for that? Come on up.
That's me. Hi.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and yourselves. I'm Erin Campbell, Treasurer for Pemberton Animal Wellbeing Society. We're just providing our annual progress report for our funding that's already been handed out. Thank you very much appreciated. 2024 kind of got off to a bit of a rocky start for us at PAWS, but with the flooding, affected us pretty severely with our outdoor housing being pretty much unusable. So that sort of prompted a rethink on what we were going to do with our 2024 time and money. We took it upon ourselves to redirect time away from general operations and into fundraising, which we were dedicating towards building 2 new outdoor shelters so that we can continue to provide the service to the community of Pemberton and around. So we spent time fundraising, applying for grants, which we also received one through the PVUS committee, which was wonderful. Thank you very much. And we're very successful, and we're able to fundraise the total costs for our 2 new heated, covered, sanitary shelters, which now can house ideally animals year round. So we're pretty excited about that. That was a really big undertaking. Along the same time, we were also applying for our registered charitable status, which we received just recently in October, which also opens up further avenues for fundraising, grants and support, which will enable us to continue the work we do. 2024, we took in 25 dogs that were surrendered into our care, dogs and puppies, and 35 cats and kittens. Most come to us from families that are no longer able to support, able to care, and we're so grateful that we're able to provide that service to them and know that we can find them loving homes. We're still having success in adoptions, which is also really awesome because it's just happy tales for everyone. And yeah, we feel really good about what we're doing and what we're able to provide. Having a shelter within the community just really says a lot about a community and how they care and support each other and the animals. That's us.
So much.
Yeah. Did anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and same, thanks for the work you do. Appreciate
You're
it.
very welcome.
Right, up next we're on 5.5, Pemberton District Chamber of Commerce. And who's joining us for that?
The group's not.
Okay, we'll skip ahead and see if we'll show up. How about tourism permanent? Do we have reps from tourism permanent here yet? No, neither.
The next three aren't here yet.
The next three aren't here.
Wow. I think we're running quick maybe a bit too. 1:45.
Well, take my foot off the gas. Well, we can move ahead on some of the items on the agenda and then see if people show up in the next little bit. So, the committee will look ahead to 6, we're on the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull anything out or move the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move it.
Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any business arising from minutes? Seeing none, we're on 8.1. The SLRD CAO verbal report. CAO Paul.
Hi, thank you. Just grabbing my notes. Pardon me. So I want to give an update about the recreation services agreement and update some work that's being done for the recreation services transfer. My laptop died, so good fun. So regular meetings between SLRD and the Village of Pemberton have been scheduled throughout 2024 to progress the work related to the recreation service transfer. Key discussion points for these meetings have included governance structure, how VOP Council will include Area C Director / board in recreation decision-making with a goal of ensuring inclusive, fair decision-making. Determining budget approval timelines to meet each other's organizational legislative requirements. And then determining the new recreation access, how these new recreation assets will be considered for addition to the recreation service, and if applicable, how they're approved. Also working on financial contribution and asset transfer agreements. Those are currently being drafted. The goal is to complete the transfer by December 31st, 2025. So that's just a year and change away to align with expiration of the current management agreements. The ability to attain this goal depends on how the draft agreements are progressed, ready to be presented for review by each organization's council and board. Any feedback or direction that comes from the council or board. A staff report is going to be brought to PVUS in February to official update on the progress.
Great, thank you for the update. First I'll ask if there's any questions or anything you'd like to add, CEO Tracy?
No, I was going to say, you captured everything really well at the village level. Really, our team is just coming together now, having so much more clarity about the fact that like this transfer means that this will now be a village service. So just going back to what CAO Paul has said, we need to come to an agreement on what it's going to look like to have a structure that supports that generates transparency, accountability, as well as engagement over, the growth and change of recreation assets in Pemberton Valley. So
appreciate that, and just to support that conversation, I mean, we, when this committee sort of set the direction to do the recreation transfer, it was sort of in the spirit of, for some time now, the village is ready to take on that administration, and more of the assets that are coming into our recreation department lie within the boundaries of the village. And before things get more complicated, it was the time to do the transfer. But the idea was at no extra cost to any residents, and in a similar governance style as we have here at the PVUS table, which will help govern and decide on budgets for the recreation department. But it's the administration over, and it'll look different on people's tax bills, and there's going to be notices about it. But to the user, for those that are watching, to our recreation users, the transition has already started in some ways, and transition should be seamless and should not be seen or felt by anybody that uses our recreation services. Just clean it up. Anybody want to add or go good?
No, I think this is the right way to go, obviously, and I think we need to just keep that focus on it's a shared operation for the betterment of everybody in the area. So if we just always keep that in mind, I'm sure it'll work out just fine.
Thank you for the update. Is that all you have for your verbal or?
Yeah.
All right, can I get a motion to receive, please?
Mike, I just want to make a comment, if
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
okay. At first I was a bit reticent, but I see now it's fairly seamless. It's moving along and the assets are actually in the village. And I get that. So, you know, it's part of the village within the core, all of it, pretty much. But I just want to say the same as Russell, that those of us who live in the country and represent the people in the area we just want to make sure that due diligence is done and everybody has, you know, the access to the recreation that they would like that they need to have, right? And yeah, and I think in some ways too, just timing for folks driving in from Darcy to try and recreate, it's not that easy. And maybe we can look at, you know, maybe different time frames. I know it's staffing and all of that, but
Well, that's a
for things
conversation
to
that we
be
can have a
open.
budget in terms of
Yeah,
hours and.
but I just wanted to comment on that, so.
But and those are all fair comments, and that's something we can look at during budget. I think already in our budget that we're looking at Sunday opening hours, again, with the budget implication, so you'll be able to totally weigh in on that. And agree, this is the recreation service for the whole of Area C and the Village of Pemberton, and the spirit has always been that it's a similar governance to what we do here at this table, which you know, budget's based on assessment, governance is 2 representatives from each community, and so that's the spirit, and look forward to seeing the process carry on. Before I get to the VOP's CEO verbal, maybe we'll go back in time here a little bit. It looks like we've got chamber representatives. If you'd like to join us up at the table and give your presentation. Good afternoon, welcome. Introduce yourselves and
For
the table is
sure.
yours.
Okay, well, hello, everyone. My name is Ariane. I'm the Executive Director of the Pemberton Chamber of Commerce.
Adam, I am the president of the Pemberton Chamber and District Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, so today we're here to talk about the accomplishments of the chamber for 2024. Next slide, please. We can move 2 forward. And yeah, another one again. Okay, so first accomplishment is the visitor center. So we successfully managed to operate the last season of the visitor center. Even if we had a decreased number of staffing this year, we still feel like it was a successful year for the visitor center. We were able to get some funding through Canada Summer Jobs with the support of Destination BC. We also offboarded the visitor center for the upcoming seasons to Tourism Pemberton. It was a really collaborative exchange, and we decommissioned the current building. Next slide, please. Okay, events. So probably most of you have seen that we increased a lot the number of events that we have with the chamber right now. So about 80% more than 2023. So we have a full-on new event structure. And we launched some new events such as the speaker series and more lunch and learns and more social mixers as well. This is a really good source of non-due revenue for us and also a good learning and networking opportunities for members. Next slide. Okay, advocacy. So one of the goals of the chamber is really to be the voice of our members with different stakeholders. So we've held different things such as the all candidates meeting, which was again really successful, a lot of attendees and really good questions from the public. We also held a industrial park caucus group that we're looking to do about twice annually, and also the advocacy roundtable, which some of you We're at, again, really successful events with really good topics that were brought up. Next slide. The team, so we have a very new team at the chamber. So my picture is there, so I was hired about 8 months ago. And then we also restructured a bit the roles within the chamber, and so we hired Zoe, who's our new marketing and admin coordinator, and we also brought in a new board member. Next slide. So if you follow us on social media, probably you've noticed that we really worked on our branding this year. So that was one of the mandates of our new marketing and admin coordinator. So as you see here, we really worked for all our branding to work together and just reach more audiences. Next slide. Okay, a bit with the branding. So you'll see before the new year, we have a new website coming in. And with this website is going to come a new CRM. So that is going to be huge for our operation, and it's going to take a lot of pressure out of the team for that. And with this new CRM, we're also working on our SOPs to streamline operations and just to have everything on paper to help the processes. Next slide. Memberships. So in 2024, we increased the number of members within the chamber by 25%. So the town is growing, number of membership are growing as well, which is really exciting for the chamber. And with the new CRM and the new website, we're also launching a new membership structure. So we hope with this structure that we're going to see again an increase in memberships in 2025. Next slide. Okay, we also created and implemented a new strategic plan. So this strategic plan is going to be for up to 2027, and it focuses on organizational excellence, membership, advocacy, and the visitor center. So if we're looking at all the points that we covered in the presentation, we really feel that in 2024, we kind of checked mark most of these. Next slide. So finally, we feel like we really improved the relationships with the local stakeholders. So if we just look at the chambers in our valley, so we met in person with the chambers from Lillooet all the way to North Van. So we really feel like, you know, most of our towns are having the same not really struggles, but I mean, like, we can work on some stuff together. So that was really good for the chamber. And also we managed to connect a bit more with other stakeholders like the BDC and Community Futures. And these guys are also going to sponsor most of our events, which is really exciting. Next slide. So thank you for your time, and we're open to questions and comments.
Presentation. Any questions or comments? Matt.
I guess my comment is, I was rather somewhat disappointed to see the information center and all that closed down as early as it did. Because we have people coming through here until the snow flies and even further. So is there anything planned going forward to replace that?
Yeah, so basically, if we're looking at timing, we closed only 2 weeks early from what we were supposed to. And probably you've seen, so around the visitor center, as soon as we closed, there was like these gates and everything. So we really, at that point, it wasn't all into our control, I would say, if we're looking at the timing. For the future of the visitor center, we did work with Tourism Pemberton, and they're gonna take the lead on the future of it, which we feel like it makes a lot of sense, like if it's this organization who takes on the visitor center, and they're actually working on a new project for it right now. And we've been talking about it at the our collaborative meeting. So it's definitely something is coming.
Okay, so you've been talking with.
Tourism Pemberton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Director Ken.
Very good.
I think for the major being a member of the chamber, the company that I'm involved with is a member of the chamber and a member of Tourism Pemberton as well. And, yeah, having the closing of the facility was a shame, but it's out of our control, right? But one of the things I think is really important is getting a Sani dump up and running. Particularly for those of us that are, people that are camping and the businesses that rely on all of the tourists that come through and so on. So I think that's pretty integral to try and get a Sani dump going.
So we'll hear, we, a few things on that.
That was just one of my comments.
Again, I'll come back to you, but just to
Yeah.
answer that, just again, the tourism, the info booth and potentially a Sani station is sort of being directed now by Tourism Pemberton, so we can have a little more conversation with Tourism Pemberton. With regards to the Sani dump, Village Pemberton is trying to work with them. We're trying to find a new location for that as well. So yeah, that's sort of the conversations that are going on we're trying to explore whatever locations we can find within the village. And again, whether it's in conjunction with tourism, and depending on where it lands and who we partner with on this. But totally agree, it's an important asset and that's where that one's at right now.
I understand that everything is going so technological and an important integral thing is a good website and for the chamber as well, right? And for Tourism Pemberton. I don't know, I just was wondering whether, I'm just throwing it out here, it's kind of a little bit off topic. But, where you have the transportation hub now, whether a Sani dump could be put in that area at the back in a corner or something.
It's one of the spots that's been looked at. And again, I don't know if staff's in a position right now to report out in the moment, but just, it will come back to us here. Locations are being looked at. That's one of the ones that was on.
Well, you know me, Mike, I'll throw anything out.
I know you can, and I'm just trying to guide you onto the agenda, that's all.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, thanks for the work. The chamber is growing and that's a good, wonderful sign for this community that it's growing so quickly and we have a lot of great businesses out at the industrial park and home-based businesses and it's great. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yes, good. Oh, Dr. Mack, go ahead.
Yeah, just about the Sani dump or did we sort of, I guess, walk away from talking to Saber Kendoffs on that property on the highway?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a follow-up with him and he had said that his intent was to put it on the market. And I think he put it on the market a couple of weeks after he and I had.
Yeah, so it all comes down to money then. If we had the money, we could buy that location. Cause I think that would be an excellent location.
You know something I don't know?
I think that would be an excellent location with its proximity to number one lift station. Highway, all that stuff. So, yeah, that's something I'm not gonna give up on, but, okay, thank you very much.
Director Ramsden.
And I just wanted to say, thank you very much, because I've spoken with you, you guys a bit more in detail, but all the programming that you've brought on and everything that's coming forward, it's really exciting to see. And yeah, just great job.
Thank you. Awesome, thanks for being here, guys, appreciate it, thank you. So. Here we go, we're going to 5.6, Tourism Pemberton, come on up. Christine.
It says Andy is supposed to be here, but he's flying in a helicopter, so I apologize for not being here. Okay, so we want to start by thanking the committee. So without the PVUS funding, Tourism Pemberton is relying a lot on our volunteer board. So the fund is mainly to pay a part-time position, and then we want to insist that it's not just to promote tourism and do it's mainly to manage and ensure responsible and sustainable tourism, because it's important to understand and differentiate that our organization isn't just promoting Pemberton and area to bring the most people, but a big chunk of our mandate is to manage tourism and make sure that we don't overdo it. And that's a great segue to one of our projects. So you can move next slide, 2 slides. Perfect. So in 2024, we were able to add 4 of our backcountry houses. So those are urine derivative system, and there are some of the most eco-friendly in the world. So by doing this project, we received one of the biggest grant to build those, and it really put tourism Pemberton and Pemberton out there, and the world is looking at us as an example as to what we should put in our forest and our nature as an outhouses, and it allows us to work with local contractors and
Christine, can you remind the crowd where those locations are? Where
oh
you-
yeah, there's 14.
14, yeah.
Okay, Saffamore, Driftwood, Lizzie Bay.
Well, Mackenzie, Cool Creek,
Cool Creek.
on the Duffy, on the Hurley.
There's a new one, Westwood, the new one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there's a talk about.
Courts Garden has 2, 3 of them, 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Shadow Lakes, a lot of places.
Nice.
And there is a talk about utilizing them at the maybe new visitor center to showcase what we're doing. That's to be determined. Perfect. And so, perfect. And then the part-time position also support the production of the signature event, which is the Sloping Cycle Sunday. And in 2023, the event was canceled and it was still voted Peak's best event in Pemberton. So I think it showcased how the community counts on us and that really appreciate taking bringing the farmers, the vendors and everybody in. When we did the pop-up event, you could see that it was everyone just from Pemberton. People were walking to the pop-up events. I think that's where our mandate really comes together, where we bring people to discover Pemberton, but actually it's also a benefit to our community. And some of our vendors last year reached out saying that the event being canceled was a big impact because Local Cycle actually represent their best day of the year. And I think the coolest thing for me to see is how the event sparked creativity in the community. And I don't know if you participated in this Local Cycle, but there was a secret ice cream that was made just for the event that was actually made out of hay. And there's different like contests that comes in, it all relates to the event. And I think that it brings really people together and they want to do something special for that day. And they really want to showcase like best of Pemberton. So that's my favorite thing. And then next slide, wait, it's already okay. It's okay. And then the funding also allows us to do all the collaboration. So we participate in co-op marketing campaign to make sure that Pemberton is included in everything that is sea to sky. So and to showcase our members. So we participate in the BCL Trail, the mountain biking consortium, and we also educate visitors with the Don't Let It campaign, which we've just the sign were just installed. So if you visit one of our outhouses, you'll have a new sign that was just installed. And then so during COVID, we also had a co-op marketing campaign that started with Lillooet and Bridge River Valley, which is the Circle Road Range Beyond Range. And then so that inspired us. So we don't have access to that funding structure anymore with this project, but it inspired us to actually continue those collaborations. So we do work with Tourism Lillooet and Bridge River Valley to continue this. And that's a little bit of the foundation of our new marketing plan coming for 2025. So we are inspired to do cluster campaigns. So we're gonna do all our seasonal campaign, bringing different sectors together. So restaurant and accommodation and all the sectors are going to be experiencing those campaign when so it's a little bit our turn next year to do a revitalization of our social media, our website. So that's to come. And that's also how we're reaching out to the new businesses to increase membership. And then one of the advantage of Tourism Pemberton is once you have a DMO in the region, so you have access to everything Destination BC, whether it's funding, courses or marketing that puts us everywhere in the country, in the region, and in the world. And that's the only way to access this information. And then we're just finalizing our new strategic plan. So at the AGM in February, we will start our new 3 years plan. And then next slide, just to do a little, one more. Because we have 1 minute to talk about what's coming up. So as I said, we're gonna be heavily focused on digital and campaigns and advertising. And then we are taking over the visitor centers. So this is not included in our 2024 funding. So it's just to make sure to bring it to the committee because there is an amount that we have to bring you a budget forward for the visitor center. So this is coming up. We're finalizing the concept. We are working with the Village of Pemberton for a location. I think we have a preferred. I think we're set, but I think a very interesting project coming up, and a lot of local organization heard of that we're gonna do a new concept, and a lot of people want to be involved, and we have other organization, non-profit organization that reached out to Tourism Pemberton and wanted to actually be involved in the project and see if they could be on the land or do something in a collaboration. So I think there's great thing coming up. And then the very last thing I'm gonna introduce you, it's a yearly request that we get. So the Nairn parking lot was plowed for the past 3 years. And so it used to be a collaboration or something that we wanted to bring together, I believe, with the SLRD, the Village of Pemberton and Tourism Pemberton. It is a question of safety because when we close the gate and we don't remove the snow, people park on the street. So I had a discussion with BC Parks, and there was a Sea to Sky winter strategy that was in discussion. A plan was supposed, I'm not sure something came out of it. But it would be nice to have maybe a consistent strategy where all the Sea to Sky BC parks are plowed or like funded the same way. So some are BC Parks, some are MOTI, which is the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. And for some reason, every year BC Park, not for some reason because we put it forward, but BC Park reach out to Tourism Pemberton every year to see how we're going to fund it and how we're going to pay for it. So we do have a partnership with a contractor. We do offer volunteer hours, but it usually doesn't cover. We just want to see if we want to do something from Geoffrey Lake to the Nairns and just have it consistent and having the funding, knowing that the more than one location are included, or just to make sure it happens, or if we wanted to open the conversation. I think that we would like to keep the gate open and have it safe on the highway for everybody. And that's it.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. From a personal point of view, I thank Tourism Pemberton and the efforts they made to promote our town in a thoughtful way for tourism, and we have such a beautiful place, and it's a fine balance. I get that. You know, not to over, but yet people need to make a living, so it's in everything, isn't it? But thank you for your hard work, yeah. And I hope you guys can find a place to land, and have a office in collaboration with the chamber, and it's a good synergy, I think, and yeah, so. Yeah, thanks for all your work.
Go ahead, Trustee Mack.
Do we have a plan in place for the plowing at the Nairn Falls parking lot?
Well, yeah, there's a contract in place. What they're looking for within our funding here, and we'll talk about it. 8.6 is funding from us. So yes, the plan is in place, the same similar plan to what was there last year, just for Nairn. Christine was talking about the idea of expanding. And by the way, it's a pretty unique situation we've got with the province to do this at Nairn. There's other, I remember Mayor Whistler looking at me going, what? How did you guys do that? Like, we would do that with, you know, there's a lot of communities that like to do that with their other parks, so good for you to have the ambition to spread it, but it's a pretty unique situation that we get to have this arrangement with the province and BC Parks to be able to use it. But yeah, the arrangement is in place. There's a contract in place. The request is for funding to support that. Thanks for your presentation. Did Pembroke Arts Council reach out to you as well?
Yeah.
Okay, I've met with
They
them
would love to have a pretty
Yes,
place
they
with
would.
us.
Okay. Thanks for coming, appreciate it. And our last delegation is from the Pembroke Community Station Association. And Sarah.
Hello. I get that through PowerPoint, not very good at it.
All good.
Thank you for your time, everybody. I'm here with the Pemberton Canoe Association. So we are putting in an application to look to employ a club administrator. We had the option to renew our previous PDIP application that was applied for in 2020, but felt that the purpose of those funds would no longer align with what we actually want to do as a club. So the new application was the best route, we thought. As everybody might know here, the PCA has been a long time established organization with a focus on community, inclusiveness, sportsmanship, teamwork, and enjoyment. We have approximately 200 members that paddle in a variety of disciplines. We operate on a volunteer basis and have 5 board members currently that are making up a majority of our work. The club administrator position would provide support to the volunteer board and ensure we do not have to reduce our programming. We provide a wide range of affordable and accessible programs for the VOP and SLRD electoral area C, including Dragon Boat, outboarding, after-school programs, and we support the Whistler Adaptive Sports Program. Our suburb programs also offer an affordable childcare opportunity and keep kids physically active. The grant amount would go to employing someone part-time during our busy season from March to September to ensure all of our programming runs smoothly and that our board can be out in the community and getting new membership. We receive funding from various sources, but currently do not have a surplus to pay an administrator's salary. Previous grant options have been received, are applied for on an annual basis and is not guaranteed. So knowing that we have funding for 3+ years would offer us assurance as a board. Membership fees cover insurance and other club expenses, and we try and keep these low so that Pemberton has an affordable sporting option. Grants are applied as needed and often allocated for equipment or repair needs, which is quite a bit. So we always have operated as a volunteer organization, but recently have had some fairly significant changes. Our club commodore resigned, Karen Tomlinson, off of the board completely. She did a lot for us. She carried that team. So the 5 of us now in our new positions are kind of figuring out how to make everything work. And she's a superhuman. I don't know how she did it all before. So we just think that having somebody during this transition period and helping us kind of build up the PCA would help us, and we would be able to engage with the community and surrounding areas to help PCA grow. Very short and sweet, that's all. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, change your comments in the committee.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have a great little club there. It's
Thank you, yeah. It's a lot.
It's a
long time.
Oh, you got it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming this afternoon. Okay, we're gonna go back to 8.2, Village Pemberton CAO Verbal Report, CAO Tracy.
To the chair, to the committee, I am very excited to report that I got to go on a field trip this morning. Speaking of recreation, to Dundalk Park, where I got to see the new amenity building, which is almost complete. We anticipate that the keys are going to be handed over around maybe right before Christmas. And we're going to be planning a grand opening that would coincide with the start of the soccer season this spring. But soon you should be able to go there and after the holidays anyways, go up on the top deck and take in the view. The patio as well. We have a beautiful new viewing mound out there. So the next chance you get, I'd recommend you go out and take a look.
Thank you, Anne. Any questions? Motion to receive. Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Administrative committee, 8.3, information report, still on recreation and nature play park. Ms. Burns.
Good afternoon, Chair of the Committee. Thank you for having me. As you are aware, we reported on this at the October 10th PVUS committee meeting. At that time, we didn't have official designs so that we were unable to provide potential quoting for this project, and you requested that we come back and present that. So this is, this presentation is in regards to what the cost estimate of the whole project looks like. This is not a request for funding at this time, as that will be discussed during the budgeting process with this committee when we get to it. Appendix A, thanks to our new project manager at the Village of Pemberton, Mehdi Karami, well, he put it all together, really. I just gave him the plans. So it gives you an idea of what the whole project looks like. It's one of those projects where we would be able to just do portions at a time. The bulk of it is putting back in the playground though, and what that costs. So I am open to any questions that you may have in regards to that one.
Burns. Questions from Director Mack.
Timeline.
It is money-based. However, as a result of having all of this information now, granting season is upon us. January, February, March is when most grants become available. So we've already started looking at a couple. We won't be applying for anything until the new year. I'm hopeful that because we have this information, because we know what we want, because the playground we still have, we've assured at this point in time that it's still viable and can be put back in, we can move forward from there. So hopefully 2025 in the grand scheme of it.
So does that include any budget allocations at this point in time, or is it mostly look for grants at this point and see where we go?
Mostly we'll be looking for grants. I think we're still in the granting process. Or the budget process, sorry, not the granting process. So we're still in the budget process and we'll go from there. We haven't gotten to capital projects at this point in time because this would be a whole green space rejuvenation project. And we would be looking at tiering it accordingly.
So a ballpark, what's the ballpark figure to put this thing together so that when I walk by in 6 months or 8 months or whatever, I can see the finished product. Well,
ballpark figure highlighted a couple of the lines of what would need to be included would be 220.
220,000.
Well, 200, yeah. That's with 200. The playground itself and the surfacing of the playground is the bulk of the expense. So, however, that's also the one thing that we can potentially receive significant granting for. So I would hope that in the grand scheme of it, that my goal would ultimately be to find granting for a minimum of 50%. That's the goal right now.
I guess I'm still having a hard time with, wasn't this all supposed to be part and parcel of the renovation, the expansion and all that? wasn't this all supposed to be factored into that?
Not even close to all of it.
Pardon me?
The return of the actual playscape, there was $25,000 that was potentially left at the end of the construction of the childcare expansion. And when, as you recall, we went and spent a whole day there walking around, and what we've come up with here is a much bigger plan in terms of changing that whole area, right? Moving the mound, and like we've totally changed the scope.
And I understand all that, but I just, here we've gone from whatever the first amount of money is to now we're at 200 grand. You know, hopefully, I mean, if we can get grants gotta come from somewhere, and that obviously comes from taxpayers in the, you know, in the end, but yeah, anyways, we'll have to just see where the funding comes from, because
And I think that's why we've talked about doing a tiered process, whether it happens all in 2025 or not. We'll see how successful we are with grants and other budgeting. If we're not, then we might have to do this over time, because there is a cost. But we drove it to a point where we said, hey, we want to move the mound over there. We want this, that, you know, we want a different quiet space under the trees here. So we've tried to create a better, more complete outdoor space for the whole community. And that's the scope we put together and approved. So here we are. Go ahead, Director Kemp.
Well, I thought when I was reading the agenda at home, I thought I saw a figure of about 295,000. Does that includes moving the cement around the community center and all of that? So the 200 grand is just getting the playscape in.
Yeah, that's the majority of it. In the grand scheme of it, we need to mobilize the equipment. There would be material that needs to be removed, and everything else. I mean, the bulk of it, like the big line, is the 125.4 that we received for accessible playground surfacing. So accessible surfacing means we would be looking at rubber surfacing for the whole. Now, that cost there can be looked at, we can look at variations of surfacing. However, if we're going to move forward with replacing a playground, we should be looking at making sure that it's accessible for all. So that would be the ultimate goal, which is also why I say we can potentially receive funding for the majority of the surfacing replacement. So that's why I say I think I can get 100 grand.
Do the accessibility grant stream.
Yeah, through accessible grant streams, recycled materials. Cal Tire does a very large grant. You know, I'm feeling like I might be able to get more than that. However.
Don't accept, surprise us positively later.
Right? And in the grand scheme of it, this is a work in progress, and I have no answers at this point as to bottom line, what it's gonna cost, other than what it costs to do what we created, from a project management perspective, with the quotes that, we've put forward. So that's bottom line, what it costs. What it costs us on the whole is yet to be determined.
Well, the plan looks beautiful.
It does. Yes, and I do,
It's very grand and it looks lovely.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, the bonus is at this point in time, the director of the daycare, I'm sure she would be happy for me to share that she has agreed to partner on some grant applications as well to help support getting the playground back in. So that's in our favor as well.
Yeah.
So.
Or just one more thing. Are you able to get some help? Maybe there's somebody in the village that is great with grants or something within the organization there.
Yeah.
You have some help with some of that. I mean, it's a big task, grant writing.
Yes. I think at this point in time, I do believe we have capacity internally, at this point. We've written a couple, that we prepared a couple that we weren't ready to submit, because the project wasn't where we thought it would be at the time. So we have the ability to recycle a few options at the moment. If that helps.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm nothing but creative when it comes to trying to do these things. So.
Awesome. Any last questions on that? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to receive, I believe, at this point, some information. Director Ramsden, seconded by Director Mack. Any opposed, motion carries. And just on that, the daycare expansion has received its final approval. And we'll be opening sort of a transition opening, like not all once, starting beginning of February is the target date. So that's really good news. We got over 50 new daycare spaces for residents for the Village of Pemberton and for Area C residents. So this is pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah. Took us some time to get there, but we're there. Okay. We are on to 8.5, which is the initial recreation operating budget. Burns.
Is this the,
What, did I skip one?
you skipped
I
one?
skipped one, sorry.
Skipped one.
8.4, the information report on second and third quarter.
That's okay. I can be pretty quick. Pretty excited about second and third quarter things. I don't want to say plateau is the wrong word, but we definitely hit a rhythm in recreation. I think we had lots of children in programs and lots of activities in the second quarter. Third quarter ramped up as it does. However, I think that it's safe to say that we have hit in our stride. You will see if you've read, I know you've read the report. We're seeing less significant increases in use and more a steady increase. So, summer camp programs, I think we hit our stride in that we know what we need to offer to meet demand. We started to track cancellations this summer. And as a result of tracking cancellations, we were able to track how our wait lists moved, which was fantastic. So we saw the majority, I'd say like 90% of our wait lists were offered positions or spots in programs, which is pretty significant as a result of how we're managing operating the program. So that was awesome. Lots of work on our end from an administrative perspective with the software. However, it was nice to see. So that is great. I think we've had modest increases in use of the fitness center over Q2 and Q3. At the same time, modest increases in pass sales. So modest just means we're still increasing and we're busy, but it's manageable. We know where we're at. Which is great. We had some great partnerships with Pemberton Arts Council. I think everyone has seen the beautiful mural on the side of the building. We've had lots of positive, constructive feedback about that and how much everyone loves it. I think we've also had a fabulous July 1st event on Canada Day. Too many people to do head counts. So I think that's a positive thing for sure. It was wonderful to see the parade route lined. We had great attendance at the Spud Run in the morning, and staff hit a bit of a stride with where we're at with that event. I think you can see I added for information Appendix B, which is what we use to price out when we create new programs and events, so that you can see what it actually costs to do what we did on July 1st this year. So there was that. Lots of work put into our accessibility and inclusion plan, working with the director of the library, as well as other organizations within the corridor. but we were able to come up with and create a draft plan that has been presented, and that's Appendix A. In the grand scheme of it, we are really busy, but we're making strides forward with positive movement. There was also quite a bit of staff turnover this fall as well. We've covered a mat leave, and so we've been doing lots of hiring and onboarding and honing all of those procedures as well internally. So any questions about that?
Questions on the report? Go ahead.
I have one question with the gymnasts moving to their own permanent position. How does that affect the funding for the community center, and does that open up space for you to offer more programs? And I just want to get your take on that whole thing.
Yeah, fair question. So as a result of my relationship with Whistler Gymnastics, I budgeted for their facility to move out of the building for fall of this year. So it was something that we had projected from a lack of revenue perspective in the 2024's budget. Yes. To your ultimate question, does it impact us? Does it create more space? Is it a loss of consistent revenue that we had seen on a regular basis? Yes. Do we anticipate being able to fill that space with future revenue? Yes. It's just a matter of timing. What we're able to do for September of 2024 was offer more space to School District 93 for their programming, which they took advantage of. So they have more time in the Great Hall for the school-age children of Cola Valley, which has been very successful. As well as we have the opportunity, we've added some drop-in sports times, we've got some youth volleyball happening and some additional bookings. So we're equally as busy differently, if that answers the question. So we're not managing child behavior as much as we used to. So I think the library director has noticed it as well. So but we still have equally as much children. So yeah.
That's good, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for your hard work.
Yeah, no, pleasure.
Anyone else? Not, a motion to receive. Director Mack, second by Director Ramsden, any opposed, motion carries. And now, it's in Ms. Burns for 8.5, 2025 initial recreation operating budget.
Thank you. I do have the manager of finance, Thomas Secor, joining me for this one. I'll let him.
I'm not sure about his wardrobe choice, however.
I think it might have been free.
That's in the better. Thank you for having it. Here's.
Today I want to just go over the first draft of the budget. What might be new and a very deliberate plan this year was that we are accelerating the timelines of the budget. So this is the first time in my time here that we've brought the draft budget to council for input before bringing it to this committee. So I just wanted to walk through that process a little bit and some of the things that were discussed and advised, and then highlight some of the key notes in the first pass of the draft operating budget. Just to be very, very specific, what you've seen in the appendix here is a breakdown of the 5 cost centers or 5 areas of the recreation service with a consolidated operating plan. And what is not included are revenue projections or capital considerations, surplus reserves, or detailed labor assumptions at this time. So again, it's a first draft. We want to bring this forward. What guided the budget was the Village of Pemberton's council's strategic plan. We looked at the 5 objectives outlined there. And then with Ms. Burns, we were able to develop the very specific key priorities. Those three are to strive for continual service delivery, notably increasing weekend and seasonal service hours, staying agile and adaptable to changing service demands, and ensuring the service is accessible and inclusive of diverse community needs. So the way that materializes in the budget, we highlighted a few areas. At first, there were pressures, so there are asset growth. So as mentioned, the amenity building is going to be operational in Dundalf Park. Sunday service is going to be, that's been directionally supported, or council's directed staff to continue pursuing that and bringing it to this committee. And maintaining all the infrastructure, the assets, the rec center and the big maintenance programs required for that, along with the operational considerations from staffing to IT needs are reflected as well. And what we presented to council, which I did include in the appendix, was just a highlight of those key pressures. So again, everything from the Dundalf growth and the amenity building operating requirements, some of the learnings that were made with the Bike Skills Park, which is another new asset. There's a contract to start that up and turn that down. There was a little bit of a pressure when working through that. And then some of the savings that the village has been able to optimize as an operator through sharing some landscaping contracts and optimizing staffing. So we included all those kind of points for consideration. We brought it to council and wanted to bring it to this committee as well, just to share and get some feedback around it. I would highlight that the next time the village staff does get together with Village of Pemberton Council is in the third week of January. So we'll have refined assumptions around labor and fine tune some of these assumptions, and then bring the capital plan and revenue forecasts, grant forecasts, so forth to council at that time as well.
Awesome, thanks, Thomas. Any questions or thoughts on this initial draft?
This is just an overall question I'd like to ask. Is staffing, how are you guys doing with that, and what is the forecast? I understand the job market's tightening. Is that a benefit to you guys that, and there's more people out there with rec degrees and experience, and sporty people out there with degrees that want to work for the village or for our recreation?
Yeah, I think I'm happy to say that we've had lots of applicants for positions. We've successfully filled 2 full-time roles this fall. Both will have begun before the end of the year. From a permanent part-time position, we are full from that perspective. And I think we hired a casual who we're really excited to have. She hails from the RMOW with kid experience as well as front desk experience, and she's super keen just to be casual, which is amazing. So, other than the flu virus that's going around town right now, I recommend the flu shot, everyone. We're doing really well from a staffing perspective. This initial draft budget does include Sunday hours year round, as well as when we reference seasonal hours, that would be an increase on ideally Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. We're really busy in the facility, and we tend to have 1 staff after 6 p.m. So it also includes adding an additional shift for 4 hours for a casual employee there. Now, those are things that we ebb and flow with, and whether we need or not is something, because it's casual, we can remove it or not. As well, I think for the 2024 budget, at the time when we solidified that, we only went with having Sunday hours from Thanksgiving through until just after Thanksgiving through until just before Easter weekend, based on desire for the facility to be open. I can say that at this point in time, have been tracking what kind of feedback we got once we closed on Sundays. Things were, from my perspective, we had half a dozen individuals express their concerns about us being closed on a Sunday, that understood why we were. So, but in the grand scheme of it, this is what's been presented right now, is the full gamut at this point.
The
Oh,
big chunk
thank
of
you.
that salary increase is related to the Sunday.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of, like, one of our most well-used assets in there is the fitness center. There's a lot of pressure on it. Is there anything contemplated in the budget for, or do you even have space to contemplate or ability to contemplate anything
Not
to
yet.
relieve those pressures?
At this point in time, we've managed to transition some activities that are more active into the Great Hall because of gymnastics moving out, which has been fantastic. As far as the fitness center goes, we do not have any room to expand it at this time. I believe it's June of 2027 at this point in time when École La Vallée, we have a contract with them until then. Once École La Vallée transitions to their own space, that opens up space. And we have an array of creative ideas of how we can fill that space and what we will do with it. And one of those is obviously, and a high priority is obviously expanding fitness.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, a motion to receive. Director Ramsden, seconded by Director Mack. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely afternoon. Thanks very much.
So we are on 8.6. We're back talking about the Pemberton and District Initiative Fund. Yeah, but do we need a recess for take 2 minutes, or let's take 2 minutes here and Veronica get set up. All right, I'll call the meeting back to order, and we're on 8.6. Veronica is going to take us through the PDIF application.
Okay. Veronica Reed, Project and Program Coordinator with the SLRD. The first report is the direction request. So this one includes all the new applications for 2025 funding from our October 15th deadline. We have 3 long-term funding requests we saw presentations from today. And we've also got one-time funding request from Pemberton Arts Council. All the applications are within the recreation, arts and culture stream and none in the economic development. Do you want to go through each application? Would you like to do it that way?
I think we'll, in terms of approving or not the applications, we'll go through one at a time. Maybe can you just speak before we get there about how much, whether the fund can handle all these applications?
Yeah, so the budget does have enough time for one-time funding. We have a large rollover from previous years. So you'll look in the budget, it shows that we've gone below the requisitioned amount for 2025, but we do have a large surplus that carries over. So it's definitely got a lot of room for other people to come into one-time applications, and the long-term all have come in at that October 15th deadline. So we won't see any more long-term applications until the 2026 intake. It'll just be those one-time. Yeah, one of the requests is $12,000. We've got one for 15, one for 5, and then a one-time of 5 for 2025. 2 of the groups have not had PDIF funding before. That's Whistler Gymnastics and Whistler Animals Galore. Pemberton Canoe is returning for a new use of their funding that they've changed to. And then Pemberton Arts Council does receive long-term funding already. They're on a long-term, they're only 1 year in, but they didn't receive a grant that they were expecting this year. The fund is gone and they won't be able to get it, but they have, through discussions with them, discovered other funds they can apply for. So they're requesting a little bit of a top up to pay the grant writer to apply for that funding to get a long-term solution. So that's one of the applications. And then there's also the fee waiver program. We didn't have any use in the last 2 years, but we do have interest from the Arts Council and speaking with the recreation, another community group that might want to use it.
So we can decide if you want to keep it at 5,000 or reduce that amount. It carries over each year if it's not used, so that's gonna carry over as well into next year as it's sitting in the 2024 budget. Yeah, I think that's a summary of everyone in this report.
So we're gonna get into them one at a time. Is it a general question or is it about?
Yeah, just a general question. So as we go through these, so what you're saying is we do have enough money to fund the requests as requested?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
absolutely.
That's,
Including what we anticipate in terms of regular.
Yeah, so the 5-year budget's included, and it's sort of this year, it looks like we're under the requisition, but next year it's back to a healthy amount, and the surplus is quite high, like the surplus is $66,000, I believe, that rolls over in the fund.
Yeah, any other general questions? You wanna get into them one by one? So the first one is the Whistler Gymnastics Club. I have one quick question on that. I'm assuming they're a club, they're like the canoe club, are they a business? I just want to make sure we're not supporting a business. Are they the same as PYSA or the same?
Yeah,
as-
they're like nonprofit.
That's all
Yeah,
clean.
recreation program.
so we're gonna approve as,
They're asking for $12,000
Oh.
a year for
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. They have a pretty big budget though, don't they?
it's
You
a
know,
pretty big operation.
It's a pretty
250
big operation.
250 some odd participants. Anyways, I was gonna say that I would approve that request.
Okay, so move the funding application, support for funding application moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is WAG, and their request is for
$15,000.
for WAG. Yep. Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. Third application is Pembroke Canoe Association. Would like to move that. Director Ramsden, second by Director Mack. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. And Pembroke Arts Council. Application for one-time funding for the grant writer, moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. And that's it on that part of it, right, Monica?
And then the next will be the fee, sorry, for this one.
Sorry, if I could I just want to point out that was highlighted in the staff report that Pemberton Arts Council is currently technically an ineligible applicant because they're receiving ongoing funding, but the proposed resolution in your report
Okay, gotcha.
embedded that notwithstanding wording
Sure.
to be clear that that there's an awareness that policy is not being followed in that respect.
Okay,
So I believe what you passed incorporated that wording.
it does, which incorporates the fact that they are outside the policy. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, so does that take us to the end?
So this one.
6,
Just the week.
and then it's.
Yeah, so it's a couple of.
Yep. So then we have the fee waiver program. Did you want to speak to that quickly?
Yeah, so the fee waiver is that 5,000 we set aside in each stream, and that's for use at pretty much the community center to rent a room, and then we waive the fee. They apply through the community center, the invoice comes to us and we pay it from the money set aside. So one of the requests from Pemberton Arts Council is to use that funding this year.
You Colin, would somebody like to move that? Max, second by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then it's a question around
Director Richmond?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, go ahead. I think you're gonna ask.
Around the review of our fund policy and whether there's some streamlining that can be done. Did you want to speak to that or?
Yeah, so I think there's been some notes taken over previous years on how we can make it a little bit more efficient for staff and for the people applying. You know, recognizing that they're volunteers coming in for this funding, and just making sure there's no barriers for people to apply, and maybe coming back with some information at a later date on how we can streamline the process. And a few times they've kind of gone outside the policy, so maybe reviewing that policy and seeing how we want that to look going forward. That is.
Sounds like a great idea. Streamlining. Anybody like to move that? Director Ramsden, seconded by Director Mack. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then we're on to 8.7, which is the PDIF progress reports and final reports.
Yeah, so 8.7 is a requirement for the PDIF funding program. November 15th, everyone has to submit a progress report in their long-term funding, and anyone receiving over $12,000 comes to give a presentation like we saw here today. So PAWS, Tourism Pemberton, and Pemberton Chamber of Commerce receive over that funding amount. I came here today to give their presentation. So now that that's done, they'll provide their insurance for the coming year, and then we'll be able to issue the payment for the next year of their funding.
Awesome. So we don't need any motions on that then. That's just for information. Any questions on that? Comments? Motion receive. Director Ramsden, second by Director Kennan. Any opposed? Motion carries. And one more PDIF related for the Farmers Market Association.
All right, so the next one is an RFD for the farmers market. Some of the agreements include sort of a 3-year term with an option of 2 renewals. They have already exercised their first renewal. This is the second and final renewal for their agreement. And so they're looking to get 1 more year of funding at $6,000 for the farmers market.
Questions? Want to move that?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Second, any discussion? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, nice job. And the last, or potentially last item is 8.9, request for decision on the 2025 PVUS committee meeting calendar. Oh, go ahead, Russ. Did I miss something?
I think no, it's just, I brought this up, I guess just recently. Like we go from May to October, I think that we should.
Why don't you let her, are you talking about the
Okay.
meeting? Let's that really
Yeah.
present the calendar and then I'll open it for comments. Hi.
Hello, Raylene Rehill, Legislative Coordinator. This request for decision just brings the meeting calendar for 2025 committee meetings for consideration. And staff is available for questions if you should have any.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead, Russ.
I just think that we should have a meeting in September. Not wait till October. That's a long gap.
September is just so crazy. With
Well.
PVUS or with UBCM, SLR, regional district council meetings and the long weekend, 2 long weekends. Makes it really hard to fill into, but that's my thought. I'm open to other thoughts.
Yeah, I just think it's a long gap, when we have. So then instead of, why don't we have a June meeting and then break for the summer, July, August and September. Come back in October then.
Any thoughts on, let's go ahead.
I was thinking, rather than. Because I know for us, we break kind of August, but we have some meetings in July. So what if we, for an extra meeting, because I do agree with you, it is a long gap and maybe there is stuff that comes up. And then if there isn't, I'm assuming that we can always cancel that meeting.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering to kind of minimize that gap, what if rather than doing a June meeting, we did a July meeting?
Whatever, just so we don't have that long gap.
Yes.
I feel personally, June might be better suited, but I'm gonna actually look to staff for thoughts on in terms of meeting preparations. Go ahead.
Yeah, in the staff report, option 2, we did outline perhaps adding an extra meeting and did propose Thursday, July the 10th. If that was the desire of the committee, we could add that date. June could also be added, but we did add option 2 to add a meeting in July.
We say this every year, if we need to, we could always hold a special meeting, or we could also, the opposite is we could book, for instance, this July 10th meeting. And if in the lead up, we see that things can be shifted, there's nothing urgent for that. We don't need to hold a meeting for the sake of, we could always cancel it, right?
Correct.
I'd like to see us schedule it, and then if we don't need it, cancel.
Yeah. So that was option 2, is that correct? So would you like to move option 2 then, Director Mack?
Yes.
Seconded by Director Ramsden. Any further discussion? Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Decision on late business. We have no late business. Director's notice of motion. Motion to adjourn. Director Ramsden, seconded by Director Kennan. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Okay.